Hello, everybody. Oh my God, this is a big public. Thank you for being here. I would like to invite my partners in crime, the panelists, to join me here on stage. And while we are doing that, and we should have Alexis, hello, Thomas, Przemysław, come and join us. I know it's not easy. Can we help? No. Thank you. So while you are doing that, please do, we'll start with a little exercise. We would like this not to be just a panel discussion. Is Magda here? Yes. Hello. Welcome. Fantastic. So what will happen here is that we would like you to take part in this work. And I think we should see that on the screen. Here we go. Take your phone and please do help us with the Mentimeter. Who are you? So that's the first thing. And while you are doing that and we are taking a temperature of who you are, and there would be other questions in a few moments, I would like to ask my guests to also very briefly introduce themselves, who you are, your name, your organization, what is the broad stakeholder group. We start with that and then we go to the questions. Shall we start with you?
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Przemysław Pilaszek. I'm currently the CEO of Filiklo, which has a product in almost the phase 1 of clinical trials in oncology. And this is our main focus right now. So for now, maybe it's enough. Thank you.
Thomas?
Yeah, hello everybody. It's loud. Really a pleasure to be here. Thank you to the organizers for inviting me. I'm Thomas. I'm Director Global Pricing and Market Access in Medag, a mid-sized pharmaceutical company in the northern part of Germany. We are developing orphan drugs and also cell therapy. But today I'm not here as an industry specialist. I'm representing the European Alliance for Transformative Therapies, which is a multi-stakeholder alliance representing patients, physicians, researchers, and also industry. We are advocating for timely access to safe ATMPs and some other things, and we are supported by an interest group of members of European Parliament.
Thank you. Alexis?
Hello everybody, thank you for the organizer for this invitation. I was afraid first because I saw just one word, and to summarize myself in one word is quite challenging, but in few words, so I'm Alexis Bitton. I'm in charge of international relations for Genopole. Genopole is a bio-cluster. We are located south in Paris. We help make the connection between the research and the market. And I'm also coordinator of the European project COBIOE, which aim at interconnecting ecosystem of innovation in the biomanufacturing system ecosystem.
Thank you. And Magda?
It's a pleasure to meet you all. Magda Kulczycka. I'm representing the Bio-Forum, the Association of Biotechnology Companies. We support Polish biotech companies in many, many ways. One of them is public affairs and either Polish or European level, together with our friends from EuropaBio, because we are a member of EuropaBio as well. Moreover, we are creating networks between Polish biotech companies and international partners through either our annual conference, CE Bio-Forum, held every year in Warsaw, or during international events in US and other European countries as well. So that's it.
Thank you so much. And because one Magda on the panel is not enough, my name is Magda Chlebus, and I'm from FPA, the European Federation of Pharma Industry, where I'm leading the science and regulatory team, and amongst many other things, also supporting the pharmaceutical industry to create a pre-competitive space in the context of the Innovative Health Initiative, which you had seen quite extensively with Niklas Blomberg's presentation. And what we are going to do together, so now you see who is in the room, and we have innovation catalysts, scientists, biotech representatives, pharma industry, a lot of scientists, molecular scientists, business development, and well, actually the entire ecosystem. Other patients in the room, just to check. It's called Bio-Pharma biotech. Of course, there are patients in the room. obviously.
They're in the other room.
In the other room. Great. So what we're going to do, and I would just tell you briefly what we're trying to do today. So we will talk about what are the key success factors for addressing some of the challenges that we heard about in the morning session today. I think the diagnosis has been done. We can do a little bit more of venting because this is how it goes usually. Europe is slow. I love the presentation from with the snail and showing how Europe looks like. I think what I would like to say is that today Europe has a fantastic science. That's true for Poland, Krakow. It's true for any other country. We have fantastic healthcare systems as well. The problem is the journey from the science to the healthcare systems and the time it takes to get there. So what I would like to ask you again, using the Mentimeter, where do you think the biggest challenges are? And we are going to look at these challenges, but more importantly at solutions and key success factors. The venting was done this morning. Now we are turning to solutions. And please tell us, where do you think the biggest challenge is? And I would start already, Magda, with you. Where is the biggest challenge and what is the critical success factors for getting out of the problems?
I know it may be not very politically correct, but I would say it's a trust that is a major issue. And it's a trust between academia and industry that we are, because if you think about it, they're going in the same direction, right? They have the same goal, but nevertheless, they somehow, it's so difficult, the communication about conditions and how to reach this goal. So I would say it's, of course, they're talking different languages, different terms, and so on and so forth. But if there's this will to find the solution and the trust that the counterpart is thinking in the same direction, then it's doable, definitely. And of course, then we could complain about not enough funds for breaking the Death Valley, but I would say that, sorry, there are funds for that. I think that there are a lot of programs that facilitate this process, and there's only the matter of how devoted you are to bring your solution to the market, and that's it. Sorry.
I would be asking the question also to the public, and please be ready because we would like to have this conversation together with you, not just amongst us. But you know, I always have this reflection, if it is so good, then why is it so slow? So I think our panel today and our conversation should be about not only what we need, but also how to apply it in order to accelerate. Because as Commissioner Vaheli said a few days ago in one of his communications, Europe needs to be bolder, faster, simpler. So faster and simpler resonates quite well with me in order to accelerate the change. Alexis, how about you?
So I can see that there are 5 items. We could check all of them, of course. I will try to be politically correct compared to you.
You don't need to.
I'm joking, but no, I would say we could specifically point out the late-stage investment, of course, but why lack of late-stage investment from private venture, for instance? We can think of the return on investment, the risk. So how do you diminish the risk for the companies, for the capital investment? There are many ways to do so. So that's why, as ecosystem of innovation, we try at early stage to support the companies as much as we can, to provide them with the elements they would need, and they would not need to look somewhere else. For instance, we can talk about pilot infrastructure. This is sometimes tremendous investment, equipment for the companies. So I think the local can focus on that, the local ecosystems. There is also one aspect, maybe we'll go more into details, but there is the skills shortage, because it's a quick evolving field. I can speak for France, for instance. We lack a lot of technicians to operate the machine in our factories, because this domain, this sector, have been kind of under-diminished by our culture. Being a technician is not really valorized. So we can talk about a lot of different aspects. So I can say that translational research, so the tech transfer, to facilitate the transfer between the research to the innovation, facilitated by equipment, so by investment in equipment. So if you have to decide as a public fund where to invest, you could invest in equipment and not just distribute the money everywhere. And at the European level, I would say that we are too, let's say, diverse and sparse. We need to specialize between the territories. This is some findings that we have found in this project, is that all the ecosystems want the same things. They want to build factories to produce, but they don't look elsewhere, so they can face a lot of competition. And I will finish, Magda, I'm sorry. But we have CDMOs on site because our local government incentive for those CDMOs. But at the end, will they find the market? And we see that now we have overcapacities in some specific drugs. And it was also public investment, not only public investment, but that means the public invested and increased the capacities, industrial capacities, which not find its market. And this is a huge issue because it could have been prioritized somewhere else. Yeah, but there's a lot of things to say.
Fascinating, but I'll challenge you in a second because I think it's all good, but is that good enough in order to get us out of all the valleys of debt that we've discussed today? You've said there is enough funding. You've said we can work on maybe accelerating and improving technology transfer. Would that help closing the translational research gap? I'll come to that in a second. Before that, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you very much, Magda. I'm an industry guy. I'm not well known for being politically correct, so we are always asking for money. I said it to you in the morning, Europe needs to put more money on the table. This is definitely an issue. The US is investing heavily. We saw this morning that the US is, even though they are investing heavily, is losing ground towards China. So we need to be very careful not to lose our position we currently have. I've been for 30 years in the pharmaceutical industry, 2 weeks missing. And over the 3 decades, I saw how the position of the European industry in Europe declined. And going back even further, the EU and Europe was very well known as the pharmacy of the world. What we are currently facing is bureaucracy. What we are currently facing is a system which is not facilitating innovation, and a system in the EU which is very much fragmented, which is highly complex. So, for instance, the medical device regulation and the IVD regulation, those are more or less governed by Brussels, but in the implementation, different countries added something here and something there. For a pharmaceutical company, if you want to develop a product in this system, of course, when you want to sell it later on, or earlier, when you want to do clinical trials in different countries, you have to fill all those different requirements, which is, of course, very difficult and in the end costly. And other things, also fragmentation, which is leading to trouble, is we are talking about, or I am talking about ATMP developers today. There are ATMPs which are available in some countries, but not available in all countries. And this is not because the countries don't want to pay for that or because the health technology assessment didn't work. This is because it's a very special treatment which can only be assessed in a single hospital or a few hospitals in Europe. And when you live as a patient in a country where this treatment is not available, you would have to go there. We call this cross-border healthcare. There's a directive on that or a regulation. I'm not an expert on those things. I have to say it doesn't work. It works for me. coming here for business when I break my leg, when I jump out of the bar in the night, but it doesn't work in those cases, and we have to work on that. And last but not least, again, industry guy in market access and pricing and reimbursement. Europe is very fragmented in health technology assessment systems. We have, if we take, let's say, EEA, about 30 countries, and what we are currently doing under the EU HTA regulation is we do a joint clinical assessment, so we are assessing just the clinical studies in common, and all the rest will be done in the respective countries, which is for us from industry still very challenging because we have to fulfill different requirements of 27 countries. I can tell you this costs a lot of time, costs a lot of money, and also leads to sometimes, unfortunately, that we have to skip out some of the countries because they are economically not feasible. This is not good for the society, this is not good for the patients, and of course we from industry also don't like the situation.
Thank you. I would be asking those of you who put, for example, the 18 people who said a regulatory is a problem, if you could comment after Przemek about what do you think is the solution to that regulatory problem. But before we get there, your turn.
Okay, it will be very hard, but...
Let's think about the solutions as well.
Solutions. Okay, so these challenges that are here are not challenges at all. The biggest challenge is, okay, from my point of view as a small company and a startup, let's say, it's money. But I'm not worried about money because money can be found anywhere if you are good. And the real problem is European officials. We are hearing all the day, more regulations, more internationalization, more cooperation, yeah, and everything we got is more citations. Yeah, this is the way, and we are hearing it for the last 25 years, and nothing has changed. We started our company in 1998, the first company. For several years, we were a CRO for international companies from America, not for Europe, for Pfizer, Takeda, San Diego, Course Pharma, and many others. And we learned medicinal chemistry. We learned how world works, and Europe is completely opposite. And if we are hearing that, okay, we have enormous program, that we have 7 years of predicted funding, yeah, but it's like swimming with a tanker. You cannot move a little bit if the environment change. We are not prepared for fast moves. And the collaboration, let me show anyone from the biggest companies in the world, Bezos, Gates, Brin, or people from Apple, do they collaborated before they created this company? No, because if I see myself with my ideas and my interpretation of some research that we are doing in the huge panel of real scientists, they will outvote me because I'm stupid. I should not do this. It has no sense. Yeah, we need really mad people to move these things forward, and they need funding. So the first thing is Europe needs to take a risk. We need to stop focusing on being, okay, we have great institution, great scientists. No, come on, let's focus on what's exceeding this whole idea of European Union. And this is, I think, main message of this.
Thank you. So I think you shook the tree a little bit, and let's continue the conversation. Basically, if you would say, we are going to write a report at the end with a series of recommendations that would go to the European Commission in the context of the LifeScience strategy conversation. You are all invited to contribute to that endeavor. So now, if there was one recommendation that you would make in order to solve the problem that you've just explained, what that solution would be? What do you want from the European Union or from national governments, by the way, in order to resolve the problem that you've just mentioned? And then I'll do the round, but would also turn to colleagues here. And please feel free to raise your hand if there is a challenge or a solution that you want to be included in the report and that you feel would really move the supertanker of the European Union. Then let's have this conversation and let's record that. Przemek, could I start with you? And then I would go to Magda.
Okay, so maybe the idea would be if we are creating so many regulations, so the fastest way to learn these people where we are is let them create some kind of office that will support the small companies that are not capable of dealing with all these instructions, regulations, frameworks to help us. That I would like it to call like integrated permission. So they create for us the documents they are needed to permit us for something. They will very fast see where's the problem for small biotechs to grow fast and efficiently, not losing all the steam to deal with the bureaucracy.
The EU has just created the European Biotech Hub. Who knows about that European Biotech Hub by raise of hands? Claire, of course, you do. And you as well. But actually only two in a quite large room. And this hub is supposed to do exactly what you've just expressed. But who knows about it? And who knows that it exists? And is it doing really what you've expressed? I don't know. Claire, could you confirm?
Sorry. I would say it's a good start, but what it started as doing is just linking together what is already there. It hasn't brought anything new. So I think it's got a little while to go, but it's, you know, it's a journey.
Okay, so as always, there is a great intent, but then the implementation, can I be politically incorrect, sucks, sort of? Okay, let's go then to the funding. Magda, if I may invite you.
I will just continue on what you said, Claire, that it's a journey. And at the same time, there's no time to go along the journey, right? I mean, this world is changing so fast, and I'm not talking about only, I mean, the pandemic has shown us that we need to think like, the problem is here, we need to find a solution right now. And not as I think it was Natalie Moll who mentioned today that it's like, and then we are start to think about the regulations, and I'm like, what? It's far too late. What I even sent it recently to Claire that in US it's a different mentality. They have a problem, they act on it. They don't deliberate. They don't create regulations. They act on it right and on a very basic level, even. You know, like it was Iran today who mentioned also that we need to educate citizens about innovations and like what kind of benefits they get from the innovations. And what is done in US? The scientists are publishing about innovation in local newspapers. Hello, how many articles about innovations you found in your local newspaper recently? None. So I would say that we need to, in order to increase the speed, I would also agree with Przemek that we need the flexibility that would address as a solution for funding and the funding programs, they need to be more flexible. We're talking about public-private partnerships, right? Great. Private venture capitalists, they would partner with very solid programs designed by European Union. Very difficult for them because they need to, company needs to react on the change of the market. They can't wait for the programs to be changed. So, sorry.
So the solution, basically, what we are saying, the ask to the European Union is act faster, stop doing endless consultations, stop thinking about a new regulation, but maybe implement what you have and do it faster. Is that what you're saying?
But Natalie also mentioned today very well that do the consultations, so do the consultations, of course, because that's the basics of European Union, but then create the regulation, because once the regulation is done, it's very difficult to change it. And I fully agree with her.
Everybody in agreement with that? Yes? Who disagrees? Okay, everybody agrees. So at least we have one clear recommendation, Magda, 1 point. Alexi.
when I hear the other panelists, and I can see that we have the usual suspects, so we can talk about the bureaucracy, we can talk about the lack of efficiency, the disconnection also of the public with the innovation, the entrepreneurship. But let's remind that we are 27 states. It is difficult to achieve the single market, and it's one of the mandate from the Commission to achieve a single market. I'm not sure it will be possible on the health sector. It's not really a competence from the European Union. So there is also at the national and local level to work on this. I would say that for me, the role of if we are focusing on the public aspect, the role of the public is to facilitate and to fill up the gaps that are not met by the private sector. So my recommendation would be to prioritize, as I said, the investment in sector where the private cannot act because there are too many risks, because there are no return on investment, and let the entrepreneurs work, facilitate their work in that way. When we are talking about biomanufacturing, what we have seen is that we have different levels in Europe. We have interviewed several ecosystems everywhere. So I'm talking about ecosystems. Some of them are private, some of them are non-for-profit, different stage. But we can see that there is maybe 8-9 countries that really have biomanufacturing sector well developed. So there is no sense in spreading and distributing the money everywhere. You need to specialize the regions on their strength, to identify the gaps where, as I said, the private sector cannot act, and to facilitate also the cooperation between the public and private. We have several startups, we have incubator, accelerator, some of them are spin-off of research centers, and I can say that some of them were successful, it worked. They came from an idea. It was a scientist, and then we matched them with an entrepreneur's more private profile, and it worked very well. So one of the Draghi's report said that one of the strengths of the European Union is the academic scientific base. So let's capitalize also on this, and I agree, of course, with the efficiency, but maybe it should be done more on the local and national level. Prioritize again, because we cannot all do the same. Public money, if you compete with each other, it's a waste of money sometimes. So it's also a problem. When we interviewed the different ecosystems, we see all of them had as guidelines to increase the investment in these industries, production plants, CDMOs has to be. All of them should attract investment, industrial investment, but sometimes you wonder if you have the assets to attract, and maybe you should specialize in something else. And I think this is really the role of the European Union and the national authorities to structure this better.
Simpler, faster, bolder. I would like to highlight again the words of Commissioner Varhelyi, and maybe to turn a little bit to the faster, because I think we are talking about tweaking the edges quite honestly, but if we had to bring an acceleration of everything that is going on, what would you do, or what would you need from the European Union in order to accelerate? I start with the public, and then let's turn to the panel.
Thanks a lot. Anton Ussi from IATRIS. We are a European infrastructure for translational medicine, so we support, on average, about 150 projects a year, trying to traverse the valley of death. And the single biggest thing that kills our ability to innovate, we think, is that public money in the early phases is being dressed as translational, but we're getting publications, we're not getting exploitable data. The data journey is a very long journey with many stakeholders. It's like a relay race, but research funders are still funding it like it's a single sprint to the end of that project. If we can bring the funders together longitudinally, give them access to the trusted third parties who understand the business of that specific gene therapy or medicine development, and help them review the projects better, monitor them, and look at the exploitability of the outcomes, not only the publishability, then we could do things much faster because we're linking up all the different value elements in the chain.
connectivity between programs, more agility and funding at milestones rather than trying to do everything in one go. I think that everybody agrees. We are still talking a lot about the research funding, how to get venture capital, how to get access to money, how to get access to funding. I'd like to talk also a little bit about who here is doing clinical trials. What do you think about the speed of approvals of clinical trials in Europe, and what would need to be done in order to change this?
You know, it's relatively slow, and it's very obvious. But I would like to address the previous conversation, and we still have a tendency to tinker in the engine and say we need to tweak that to be a little bit faster and so on. And the situation looks complicated. Engine is a very complicated machine, and from the inside, it looks that we actually don't know what to do. But let's look from the outside. So it's a race. Europe is in a race. And we have basically US, China, and European Union. Of course, there are other actors, but we in Europe put a car into the race. And it's a diesel engine, 2-liter, because there are regulations. It's complicated. It's eco-friendly. It has been designed by several teams of engineers. So yeah, it looks like a car, and it's probably, let's call it as a Volkswagen, and it's good. And the US, they put a V8 muscle car that uses a lot of gas, but it's fast. And the US has a fleet, China has a fleet of electric cars and their own atomic power plant. And this is how we are going to compete. And right now we are tweaking maybe, you know, the injection, the valves in our engine, but we probably need to think about designing the other car.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, Magda.
Can I relate?
Thomas and Przemek.
But this is for me, this is a story about the consistency of what European Union wants. It's like, okay, you want to be competitive on global scale, all right, but the single actions and regulations that are being like as should be as guidance for reaching this this goal, they are like they're those little valves, changing of those little valves, and they don't align with the goal itself. Okay, maybe you don't agree. Maybe it's a bigger discussion. I will let Thomas also relate to, but.
I think we will get there. It's good that we have a debate. Thomas and then Przemek.
I'm not sure if I can give you the new car, but I have the kind of similar thinking. So we are tweaking here and tweaking there currently. We are trying to improve research. We're trying to improve the transfer from research to development and so on and so on. So have in mind or thinking that probably in 10 years we would have a perfect environment and we would be able to create the best drugs under the world. This is what we need to supply to our patients and to treat our patients. And now look at the situation, how it is currently. The good, the innovative, the very well working drugs are usually not invented in Europe. Okay, we could change this, but what happens after they are invented? They are not used in Europe because of our strict funding systems. I'm talking about pricing and reimbursement, not about funding research. So we are, so to say, developing a Ferrari, but we don't want to pay it. So now think about in 10 years, we would probably have a very well development system, you doing your clinical trials, we from industry creating products, which would very well work. But they will not be available in the EU if we don't change the pricing and reimbursement system. So we have to think completely out of the box. We have to change this system because all those things only work when we can also use those things in practice. And there's also at least a small way out of crisis, which I see what could be done on EU level. In the EU HTA regulation, we are several, or all the time you hear about EU HTA regulation. In fact, we don't have an EU health technology assessment. We have a joint clinical assessment. All the rest is done in the countries. But in the EU HTA regulation, there is also a sentence somewhere about voluntary corroboration. We should use this, or the EU could use this to put cooperations together where the countries could work together on streamlining the systems, modifying the systems slightly to achieve a better harmonized system. I think this would be a way out of the crisis and hopefully a bit more of a revolution than simply tweaking things.
And by the way, the same is true for the clinical trials regulation, which also says that if country wanted, they could actually rely on one another, collaborate, have one approval. It doesn't mean that every country needs to approve separately. It's just not used. So more Europe in Europe, I think that's what we are all saying, right? More reliance, more collaboration, not only between researchers, but also between countries. More trust and more willing to be one and act as one. I think that's what I'm hearing and translating. But Przemek, your take on what is the solution to actually accelerate the car and the speed?
I have no idea. Really, my solution was to, I heard about, forget about Poland, forget about EU. So last year I traveled to UK and I created a company there. Then I was in the United States. And every investor I talked with, and okay, so if you are acquiring our money, we would like you to put in one of these really important markets like London or Nasdaq. So, nevertheless, what we are doing here, we will end up outside of the European Union because we don't have even a market that is worth for investors to be on. Yeah, so this is another danger. So even if we create something, we change something right here, right now in this scientific level, we have also other obstacles that these developments cannot be done or cached here in Europe because it will be delivered somewhere else or for people in the Middle East who wants to pay for these projects. And they will end up in United States, United Kingdom, or in the Middle East. And this is the huge danger, I think. So no matter what we will do right now, this will be only the one part of the puzzle. So we have to have a, let's say, holistic view of how we create innovations, how we treat them for all the process till the market, and let's say we need to get the funding back. So what we will do in this moment when we would like to have a cash from it.
I think the current situation globally, what's happening in the US, what's happening in China, is telling us that there is a need to react. When we are speaking with CEOs of larger companies and we ask them, what do we need in order to make Europe attractive and for them to stay, to maintain their investments or even to bring new investments into Europe, they basically say, we want to have a fast environment, so the rapidity and the speed. Clinical trials need to be approved very quickly. We need to have a regulatory system which values innovation and which helps and supports innovation. I mean, it's not a surprise that oftentimes companies go first to the FDA rather than to the EMA. Maybe the situation would change over the next years, but still the FDA has the resources. It's not about the quality. We have a fantastic regulatory network, but there are no resources to provide continued support to companies as the FDA does. So speed, market, because you do the innovation, but if you don't have the market, then why do you do the innovation? I think everybody said that, and it is the willingness to absorb the innovations. I think you've said something about the HTA regulation, which is not yet implemented as it should, and I think that's where we are struggling. We have good intents, good legislations, but we still have a complicated Europe. So I think that what could Europe do is to just act more as one and to do everything from the funding tools through the legislation to the regulations and their implementation in order to achieve that. But I think that's what common sense says now.
If I may relate to this functioning as a one, just like you said, Alexis, it will be very difficult because at the very end of the day, each country would like to work for its own for its own economy.
I think we all agree that this is the risk. This being said, I think, and again, I would like to challenge both the panelists and the public and to ask you what you think about it. I think that today, Europe is an interesting market for the 450 million people if it acts as one, because fragmented markets are not interesting. Therefore, it is in our interest not only to compete, because we understand that there is a competition, but also to collaborate and to create that market, right? So there is a momentum. Alexis?
But the question, Magda, would be, will we ever be able to achieve the single market in the healthcare sector? Because if you have different health system, insurance systems, it may be difficult rather than in other sector or other field. If we are talking about competitiveness of startups, the industry is something else. You can have investors from the US, from China, from Korea, from Japan, and it can remain in Europe. I have some examples. We've got Korean investor who invested 600 million in one of our startups, not startups, SMEs. It's possible, but so the problem is not only being able to achieve the single market in Europe, it's to make the companies competitive.
I guess maybe I was misunderstood because I know that we have 27 healthcare systems and we are not going to have one. We are not going to have one approval in one country and everybody else reimbursing the drug. That clearly is not going to happen. But I think that on certain elements like clinical trials, like ethical reviews, like regulatory processes, we can dramatically speed up. And also if we have a will to reward innovation and to reimburse innovation, if our objective is to not only create innovation in Europe, but make it available to patients, I think that is already step one. While today we are hearing a little bit of a contradiction. Do it here, but there is no money to reimburse it. And I think this contradiction makes it really difficult for investors to sort of relate to the...
That's what I was relating to about this consistency in Europe. Like, you're saying A, all right, then you need to say B down to Z.
So recommendation number one is consistency of goals. So that's already the first thing.
And follow with actions.
With actions. Do what you say. Yes, absolutely. Alex.
And who pays for it?
I think that it's not my solution, but what is important is to start thinking about maybe new payment and new models for making innovation and new solutions available to the patient. So I think there is a need for reflection. Thomas.
And to add on that, who pays for that, we are supplying with our company about 90 countries worldwide. We don't have affiliates in all those countries, but we have partner countries. So we are talking about the EU and someone from the EU funding all the system. When we have a good product which we can sell to Japan, to the Arab countries, to the US, Canada, Latin America, and so on, our industry will make benefit and profit from that. They will keep the employees in labor, will pay taxes. They will go to the shop, pay value-added taxes there, and so on. I've never done a calculation if you will get all your money back, but at least a part will be done, and it will definitely help the patients in the EU.
Thank you very much, everybody, for this great discussion. I'm not sure we have the solutions, but I think we have a start of a solution, and I'd like to encourage you to continue this conversation over coffee. And please come to me, because I would be one of those trying to capture the recommendations for tomorrow. Thank you very much, and thanks for the panelists. Please help me to thank our panelists.